You're watching the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Senior. Coming up on today's show, we're getting to the latest on Jimmy Garoppolo. And we start off with this. A lot of you are asking me, why are the 49ers where they are with Jimmy Garoppolo, and why hasn't he been traded yet? Now, there's a couple of reasons behind why Garoppolo has not been dealt by the San Francisco 49ers. So let me run you through kind of the timeline of events and the sequence of events as to why the 49ers are where they are and they haven't dealt Jimmy G, because a lot of you are surprised that he's still on this roster considering that cap hit pretty hefty at $26 million. So the easiest one, the Niners simply haven't traded away Jimmy G. Also, I think the 49ers have overplayed their hand. They thought that the market was going to be a lot more robust, and it hasn't been. The shoulder injury for Jimmy G, undergoing that surgery 2 weeks ago, has also hurt his trade value. There's also been insane quarterback movement this offseason to historic proportions, and because of that, the quarterback market, folks, it's dried up. So where can Jimmy Garoppolo go to now? The Carolina Panthers, the Seattle Seahawks, those are really the two remaining destinations for Jimmy G. Or are the Niners going to hold on to him going into next year, into training camp, so that he can rehabilitate and come back from that shoulder injury and he can prove that he can stay healthy? Let's take a look at the craziest quarterback offseason ever, in my opinion, with all of that aforementioned quarterback movement. Aaron Rodgers, largest contract ever for a football player, going back to the Green Bay Packers. Russell Wilson, in a shocker, traded by the Seattle Seahawks to the Denver Broncos. Tom Brady comes out of retirement. He's going back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Carson Wentz gets traded from the Indianapolis Colts to the Washington Commanders. Mitchell Trubisky goes to one of those Jimmy G destinations. He signs on as what looks to be the starting quarterback for Pittsburgh here in 2022. We ain't done, folks. Deshaun Watson was cleared legally. He got traded to the Cleveland Browns by the Houston Texans and in the process signed that historic contract. Baker Mayfield is still on the Browns roster, but not for long. Matt Ryan dealt by the Atlanta Falcons to the Indianapolis Colts to be the Carson Wentz replacement, and the Colts now 5 different starters the last 5 years. Jameis Winston re-ups and returns to New Orleans, signing a 2-year deal worth pretty significant money. Then the last quarterback, the elephant in the room, the big question mark, Jimmy Garoppolo, as of right now, still on this Niners roster. Now, when you look at Jimmy G moving forward with San Francisco, the ideal scenario for the Niners is that they trade Jimmy Garoppolo, they ride with Trey Lance, they moved up to take him in the 2021 NFL draft and mortgaged so much draft capital to do so. And look, mixed messaging isn't good in life. It's not good in relationships. It's not good in football. If you're in a relationship and your significant other is giving you some mixed messages, that relationship ain't trending in the right direction. And for Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, Kyle Shanahan, and John Lynch, there's some mixed messaging going on if Jimmy G is on this roster come training camp, because what is the message that gets sent to Trey Lance? We don't believe in you. We don't think that you're ready to play. We think that you're too raw. The locker room is split, and a lot of guys want Jimmy G, and Kyle Shanahan has this trust in Garoppolo that he can be the guy to lead them back to the promised land, when in reality, this offense has so much potential with Trey Lance as the starting quarterback, because he can do anything on the football field, running it, throwing it, can complete any pass. His athleticism is absolutely ridiculous, and this offense with Garoppolo as the starting quarterback, it has a ceiling. With Trey Lance, in my opinion, limitless potential. Mixed messaging, it ain't good. And there's still a lot of time in the offseason for a trade to come to fruition. But as of right now, I'm pretty surprised that the Niners have not dealt Jimmy Garoppolo. Yes, the shoulder injury impacted his trade value, but at the same time, the 49ers overplayed their hands, and right now, they're kind of screwed. Now, what should the Niners do? Should they trade Garoppolo? Should they cut him? Should they keep him? Let me know in the comments section. This will be the pinned comment on today's video, so if you get hit with that YouTube ad break, it's a perfect opportunity for you to scroll on down and get your votes in. And also, as a reminder, for those of you watching us live here on YouTube, we'll be live on Rumble only for the final segment of our live show. Subscribe, join us there, and keep it locked. Rumble.com/49erstv. More exclusive content on the Rumble app. Now, it's not like teams haven't had any interest in Jimmy Garoppolo. He's suffered a lot of injuries over time, and that shoulder injury has really impacted his trade value, as we talked a lot about here on the 49ers report. And the asking price in a trade for Garoppolo has also played a role. The Niners wanted a first-round pick, reportedly. They wanted 2 second-round picks. I think it's baloney. They had 2 second-round picks on the table because Matt Ryan, a former MVP in the NFL, went for a third-round pick. But all of these circumstances have played roles in why Garoppolo has not been dealt yet. And as I talked about, teams have checked in on Jimmy G. He's won around 70% of his games. 2 NFC championship games over the span of 3 years, including a Super Bowl appearance back in 2019. But the shoulder injury has people concerned, including those inside the building in Indianapolis with the Colts. Diana Rossini, ESPN, saying this: why didn't the Colts go after Jimmy G? From what I was told, there were concerns over the shoulder injury, not so much the medical side of it, but the idea of missing time in the offseason with a new team. This was a red flag. Now, I thought The Athletic said some pretty interesting things about the Colts checking in on Garoppolo and why they didn't end up making a deal for him. They had hesitations when it came to Garoppolo, worried about what his offseason shoulder surgery could cost them if a deal was struck. There was plenty to like about the 49ers quarterback. Sure, Garoppolo's 33-14 record as a starter in San Francisco, a trip to the Super Bowl, another trip to an NFC championship game, but the Colts weren't going to bend over backwards to trade for a passer that they felt was limited. Now, there's also this when we talk about Jimmy G. Yes, he's a good leader. Yes, he's somewhat limited physically, but players do love him. And yes, he's won a bunch of games, but he's a fringe top half starter in the National Football League. He's somewhat limited physically because he's not going to be a game breaker with his legs. And really, he completes a lot of balls in between the hashes. And when he does throw outside the numbers, it can get risky for a pick going the other way. He's been injury prone throughout his career, and the shoulder injury doesn't help that cause at all. And the $26.9 million cap hit is very prohibitive for teams that would have traded for Jimmy G. Let's look at the Atlanta Falcons. They traded away Matt Ryan, and for the Colts, they're not paying a cap hit for Matt Ryan, who's a better quarterback and a former MVP, nearly as much as what a team would be paying for Garoppolo. The Carolina Panthers, they're paying Sam Darnold. They don't want to have to pay Garoppolo as well. And for Mitchell Trubisky, I think Garoppolo's a better quarterback, but Trubisky has more upside, and his cap hit nowhere even close to the astronomical figure of that $26.9 million mark. Would you trade Jimmy G to the Seattle Seahawks, though? We're going to explore this here coming up in just a few moments. Let me know. YW for yes way, NW for no way, because you'd be scarred by the idea of the Seahawks continuing to own San Francisco, which they have, with Garoppolo as the starting quarterback. Once again, get those votes in. I'm fascinated to see what you all say. Now let's continue to explore this a little bit. Could Garoppolo get traded to Seattle? This is something that the Mercury News explored a little bit in a very good opinion piece that I want to pass along. For a team like the Seahawks, Garoppolo, injured throwing shoulder and all, could be an interesting proposition. Pete Carroll wants to get back to classic Seahawks football. Garoppolo just might be the guy to do it for him. He's not a swashbuckler like Drew Lock or Baker Mayfield or Russell Wilson. He'll play within structure. He knows how to hand the football off. He can throw the ball over the middle. He's only good on third down, and there are no issues with immaturity from Garoppolo either. That's a Pete Carroll quarterback if I've ever seen one. And for Seattle, and for a player like Baker Mayfield, that immaturity aspect, is somewhat concerning. Now, you're probably looking at this potential scenario saying, an interdivision trade, sending one starting quarterback to another team within the division, that never happens before, right? It's happened before, including some really bona fide names in the National Football League. Drew Bledsoe, because of the emergence and stellar play of Tom Brady, was once the franchise face and the franchise icon for the New England Patriots. He was traded to the Buffalo Bills. Donovan McNabb, after leading the Philadelphia Eagles to 5 NFC championship games throughout his illustrious and borderline Hall of Fame career, was traded from the Philadelphia Eagles to the Washington Redskins at the time. So these trades within certain divisions have happened before. So I'm not ruling out the possibility of Jimmy Garoppolo being traded from the San Francisco 49ers to the Seattle Seahawks. But I think the Niners want to do Jimmy Garoppolo right by trading him somewhere where they believe he has an opportunity to flourish, succeed, and have success. I also think that in the back of the minds of Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, they don't want to trade Jimmy Garoppolo to the Pacific Northwest, to a heated division rival, in one of the best rivalries in the National Football League, knowing that Seattle over time, ever since Russell Wilson got drafted in 2012, has absolutely owned San Francisco, and they don't want to trade Garoppolo up there to Seattle, knowing that there is a possibility in which Garoppolo could continue that dominance over San Francisco and haunt them and give them nightmares. So I think the possibility of this happening is very low. But if you're the Niners, do you just have to swallow your pride at this point? Do you just have to take what you can get back for Jimmy Garoppolo? And if the Seattle Seahawks were to offer a third-round pick or a fourth-round pick, at this point, there are no other offers out there. There are only two teams in the Panthers and the Seahawks who are in need of a starting quarterback, and Garoppolo's value right now is extremely low. If you release him, you don't get anything back. If you bring him back, that's mixed messaging to your locker room. Do you take a chance, trade him to the Seahawks, knowing they have a defensive-minded head coach in Pete Carroll? That offense has been on a downward trajectory. The defense for quite a long time has been bad. At this point, I might think about it, although that is a scary proposition of him going to Seattle and having a lot of success because he is a scheme fit and he really is a perfect quarterback for what Pete Carroll wants. Not a flashy quarterback, not an immature quarterback, a good leader who can really run the offense, play point guard, but also hand the football off and just kind of facilitate, which is what Pete Carroll wants. Now, before we hop on out of here on this segment, make sure you give me a follow on Twitter and Instagram at Chase_Senior. I absolutely love interacting with the Niner gang, and I made it easy for all of you. At Chase_Senior, it's the same handle on both, and make sure you subscribe to the 49ers Report by Chat Sports as we close in on 60,000 subs.